This is Open Book Night, video number 2, talking about humanity before the flood and the ark. Now, in this time, humanity was humbled by God. God decided that people were living too long on the earth, and furthermore decided to keep only one family alive. According to the Bible, there was a massive global flood, and the only survivors were in the boat that they had built. This image is taken from a theme park in northern Kentucky where they've recreated that boat known as the Ark. And these people thoroughly researched and rebuilt what the Bible describes. Just beyond that fence you see in the foreground is the entrance to the Ark. And a sign of that entrance read, "The year after Methuselah died, there was a great flood." I believe they've made a little mistake. But let's catch up to where we left off last time. Cain, who was a son of Adam and Eve, offended God when he killed his brother Abel. The Bible states that Cain went to the land of Nod, east of Eden. Now, there are some people who would look at this and they'll say, clearly there were other towns and villages. However, there are 3 problems with this idea. The first being that Nod is a term that means wandering. If you're going to read the Bible, it's important to check out those footnotes whenever you can, whenever they are available. The second issue with this idea that Nod was some established place is that the Bible states that after Cain settles down, he builds a city, naming it after his son Enoch. So there wasn't a city there before. Finally, in the Bible, it states that the woman was given the name Eve, the first woman, and that name has a meaning. All these names have translations or meanings, and in her case it was mother of all living. So as we get into the next chapter, we'll see the only one sort of complete genealogy of people who lived before this massive flood. And there's 2 facts that are going to be contrary to how we live now, how we understand life now. And these are that people lived extraordinarily long lives, and then that childbearing years apparently went on for a long, long time. You'll see Seth was not born until Adam was 130 years old. So I'm inferring that makes Eve also 130 years old when she had that child. So there would have been many more years to create more sons and daughters in each generation. Okay, so these are all the firstborn children and the years, the ages that someone lived, and then the number of years before they had children. Now, when Noah was 600 years old, it says the flood came. So somebody who was a math major, a college roommate of mine, said, well, shoot, does that math work out? When he's 600, the flood comes. It says his grandfather lived to 969-something years. Does the math work? Thankfully, it's not complicated math, and we can see that Methuselah does die in the year of the flood. So you take 187 from 969, you'll see that he lived for 782 more years, the 182 before Lamech gave birth, or father Noah, I should say, and 600 years to the flood. So 182 plus 600, 782. The math works, and Methuselah died in the year of the flood, not the year before. Now, when I was a kid, I had a different question. I said, well, these people were living so long, why don't we live that long now? And the answers I got when I was a kid were not very compelling. Oh, the air was cleaner or whatnot. But if you keep reading to the next chapter, it says that angels actually got together with human women and made children. Okay. Now, because of that, there were all sorts of crazy demigod-like people, and God says, all right, this doesn't work for me. Human lifespans will be 120 years, which again is a multiple of 20, one of those numbers that we look for. The other thing that happened was, whether people were descended of angels or not, all the people on the earth, God says, their thoughts were evil. I'm getting rid of them, except that he spared Noah and his family. He told Noah, go ahead and build an ark, build the boat. Okay. So then more of these numbers, you'll see the number of animals, the pairs of animals that Noah was supposed to take. Most people remember the 40 days of rain, but the earth was flooded for 150 more days before it receded. The 7 days until the flood to me is the most interesting though. and got me thinking. 7 days, I understand that that's the normal time in Jewish tradition to mourn somebody when they're gone. So what if the 7-day warning happened when Methuselah had died? And thankfully, my old man has studied the language, and he's found these, he's not the first one, but he's found these translations of the meanings of these names. And Methuselah's name literally means his death will bring. So it seems to me that the death of Methuselah and maybe 7 more days, and then the 40 days of the flood started. All right, so that's the story. I have a couple more points I'd like to make related to this. Darren Aronofsky may or may not be a household name. He's a film director I have a lot of respect for, but this film, Noah Is Not Worth Your Time, adds, embellishes quite a few things into the story. If you want to check out an Aronofsky film and you haven't seen or heard of the movie Pi, it's one of his earlier works. I really like that film. I also like early on in the film, it explains the Hebrew language and the meaning of letters. Individual characters also have a numerical value, and so it's covered rather brilliantly in that film. So there was a recent academic scientific article that was published, and it talks about the human population reducing way down, and they speculate about 1% of the population surviving some sort of a event. And so although the scale of what they're talking about and the scale that I'm judging from the Bible may be a little bit different, I think the basic message is the same. On this topic of humans living to just 120 years, we're going to continue with that. I thought it was very interesting. There's a TEDx speaker, Dan Buettner, and he has stated, 120 years seems to be what we're built for. It seems to be in our DNA, and I thought that was on the nose and interesting. We're going to jump into that in the next video. Thank you.